Okay. Good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday, March 18th. I had corned beef for dinner last night. Cabbage and potatoes too. Boiled.
Are you serious? Oh, you're
The potatoes were boiled. The cabbage was stir fried. We are the Charter Review Special Committee. I'm Ryan Dorsey. I'm the chair of the committee. I'm joined here by our vice chair, Councilman Bullock, two other members of our committee, Councilman Jones, Councilwoman Ramos. We also have representatives here from the mayor's office, the comptroller's office, the council president's office, the law department, the the Department of Legislative Reference. Oh, we don't have anybody from the mayor's office. Yes, thank you. We generally do, and I expect that we will before long. We also have Nancy from the Office of Council Services, along with our staff member Ethan, and we have one member of the public here with us, and we have a few online. Where is it? I distributed a summary sheet the last couple of days to the committee members and our consistent agency and administration partners here, just so everybody had a sort of concise one-page summary of all the things that were included in the request for drafting that we made of DLR. This was something that came up in a couple of listening sessions from a number of people wanting to have something to read and to be able to see. And so I just took it upon myself to throw that together. If there's any egregious errors in it, please feel free to point it out to me before these things go into any sort of circulation, expanded beyond what we've already done. And I'll just say also, we have been doing a couple of meetings. The vice chair and I have done meetings assisted by Ethan and council president's office staff with some of the non-committee members in the council to just brief them on this set of proposals, concepts. We had 3 of those today. We had one a couple of days ago. So we have a number of council members still to go through to have these individual briefings so that folks are up to date with kind of what we're going into, and that we can elicit any questions or concerns about those things and be taking that into account, because we have been working here on sort of a truncated timeline, kind of sort of expedited, doing both the concept development and consideration as much as we can at the same time as we're doing outreach to the general public, and are going to be on a similar timeline here of needing to kind of brief members at the same time as we are working to get a bill draft in hand to introduce, which we're also continuing to take public comment, which we'll have here very shortly. We also have a proposal from Councilwoman Ramos that was just submitted to us yesterday, I think. This is something we had asked for to be able to give to OCS and DLR for them to consider and give comments back on, so that we could get we could have a more in-depth discussion, not just on the proposal, but on the affected agencies' responses to it. We'll talk about that in a bit. We have had a few listening sessions now. We've had 3. The last one was postponed due to the storm that wasn't. We are also going to be working on getting another date for a virtual meeting. We said this postponed, but are we actually working on a new date for not Mount? We're going to not Mount Lemon and the one in Southwest though. Yeah. Okay. So we're working on a rescheduling date for that, as well as setting a date for a virtual session. Our next public meeting is coming up on the 25th at Toppin. That is a week from today. We have a couple of new topics, and then let's hit on those real quick. We had one submitted by email and then one I forwarded over.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. There are 3 in total new submissions. The first relates to the citizen referendum power to repeal legislative acts. We'll hear more about that, I presume, tonight from our resident in attendance. In addition, there are 2 others that made their way to the inbox. Again, that inbox is charter.review.committee@baltimorecity.gov. The first calls upon the committee to consider a recall election process for the mayor and individual members of the city council. The second just asks that the committee expand on and rebalance public input opportunities, including rescheduling the canceled session.
Okay, great. Thank you. So those are noted. For the folks who are attending online, if it's your first time observing one of our committee meetings, it has been our practice at every one of these meetings at the beginning of the meeting to take in and acknowledge any concepts for charter proposal or amendment that anybody has submitted to us, kind of putting it on the record and then letting that be something that we consider giving deeper discussion to at a later date, but at least putting it onto the initial record at the beginning of each session. We do have one member of the public here who let us know that she'd be in attendance, and so I want to give time over right now. Can we pass a microphone down? Well, you do, so that everybody can hear you and so that it's on the record here. Ms. Floyd, how are you this evening?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to be here today to put it on the record that the referendum power is not a new concept at all. In fact, it's one of the first things that was submitted here because it was an official recommendation of the 2023-2024 official Charter Review Commission, and it was studied and it was vetted and ultimately recommended by that commission. And I was disappointed to learn that even though it was in the packet that started out this process with this committee, it has apparently not been considered or discussed by this committee. In fact, I was very not only disappointed but shocked last week to at the listening session to hear that the chair was saying at that meeting that referendum power is unlawful. Because of course, if you look at the Charter Review Commission, it's been studied, it's been vetted, it's recommended, and it's also acknowledged that we are an outlier in Baltimore City among charter counties. When we do not have this power, we continue not to have this power. So it's certainly not an unusual request. It's not a new request. It's an established request. They did a lot of work on this. And that was the main thing I wanted to say. But I think that, coming from the point of view of the voters, it's something we need. And, the Charter Commission was composed of elected officials. It's composed of citizens, individuals who are appointed from the different districts. So I do think that it's extremely disappointing that recommendation has not been given due consideration by this committee. And I think it would be frankly disrespectful and insulting to go forward with a list of recommended charter amendments that did not include the referendum power. Thank you.
If I can just ask you to give just one more point, but before I do, I'm sorry, I should have asked you before to just formally introduce yourself for the record. I know we all know who you are, but we'd like to have it on the record.
Yeah, my name is Joan Floyd.
Thank you. And if you can just clarify, when you say the referendum power, can you clarify?
I
what you
say
mean
exactly
specifically?
what is recommended by the Charter Review Commission.
Can you say in just like in a very
Would,
basic concept?
Yeah.
I know what I believe I know what you mean because I've read certain things. I just want to make sure everybody else hears it in the
it's
most concise.
exactly what's in the recommendation of the final report of the Charter Review Commission. I think that's the best way. It's in your record already. It's in your materials already. So that's the best way to convey that to this committee and to the general public or to the voting public. Well, again, this has already been studied and vetted by the commission. I mean,
Okay.
It's
Thank you.
the power to basically when you, okay, I'll say it, when you all pass an ordinance that is extremely unpopular, okay, and people think it's bad for us, like in other counties, we would be able to collect certain threshold of signatures and get that item put on a ballot for referendum. And in fact, it would not take effect, but that's basically, you know, a process that's very difficult. It's not easy. It's been, you know, but other counties have it and we do not. And frankly, when we don't have that power, we do not have the same rights as our neighbors in surrounding counties. And I know there's all this desire to be competitive. Well, in that area, we are not competitive.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that was on the that was clear for everybody.
In the record.
That I think when some people talk about referendum power, they mean or might construe it to mean not just the ability to deny the implementation of an act of the legislature, but also to allow people to enact or create laws by referendum, which we can't do, but I do acknowledge that we do have the power to authorize the referendum to deny, as was explained by Ms. Floyd. Ms. Floyd, can you just turn off that microphone there? I'm gonna.
Before I turn off the microphone, I just want to add one thing.
I'm gonna call on Councilwoman Ramos here.
Addressing my point.
Yeah, I just wanted to just be super duper clear, because it was my understanding initially that Maryland was not a referendum state. And so that there would need to be state action before we could be a referendum city. But I'm hearing there's a distinction, a very, very slight distinction, but an important one, where in this case, Maryland is a state where the public wouldn't be able to initiate a change in legislation because of whatever reason, but that we could say we didn't like this legislation, so go start over.
Right. So the power of referendum that Maryland authorizes local jurisdictions to authorize at the local level in their charters is specifically a system allowing for voters to initiate a referendum election that would halt the ability to implement a law that the jurisdiction's legislating body passed. So if we were to pass, I always use minimum wage as something people, I think, plainly understand. If we were to pass a minimum wage law and then a certain number of people said that they didn't like that, they could call for a special election to a referendum to be able to stop us from implementing that minimum wage law. Each jurisdiction is empowered to set its own constraints on it, including what the threshold of required petition signatures is, how many signatures you would need in order to say, well, there's enough interest in a referendum recall vote on this, or that we need to have a referendum vote on it. And where jurisdictions are empowered to place limits on the kinds of things that are subject to referendum. So it's not just an all-out thing necessarily that each jurisdiction can decide what the parameters are that can be. But the other side is that we are not authorized, would not be authorized to do, is to allow for people to pass legislation effectively from the ballot. Maryland would not allow that Baltimore City voters would put a minimum wage law on the ballot to pass as law.
Thank you. We do have a specific, in the 70s, there was a group of people trying to
Rent
do
control.
the rent stabilization, and the Cheeks argument was, that we can't
Right.
do that. So, and this all came up when we were doing the Affordable Housing Trust Fund too, which was why I was curious about trying to be super duper clear about that that distinction. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for.
You're welcome.
Another point of clarification, Mr. Chair. When you mention it, you always mention like the referendum being able to stop something from being implemented. What if it's already implemented? Then is there a way where it works backwards, or does it have to happen before this law is implemented?
It can vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction.
I would imagine that there would have to be a time frame. Like if the bill passes within 90 days, then the community can declare something or other, right? I mean, I think
Yeah,
it can't be that it passed 20 years ago and now we're going to repeal it. You know what I mean?
right. So, okay, we've given this.
Please just put a pin in this for.
Sure. I'm
quick-
happy to have final comment here. and
Okay,
then we're gonna move on.
So I urge not only the members of the public to read the Charter Review Commission recommendation, but the committee members, because a lot of your questions are answered right in that page and a half that they put in here. And it's really the most plain language. It's easy to read. And I'm going to read like 2 or 3 sentences of it right now. The power of referendum is the right of registered voters of a jurisdiction to submit a petition to approve or reject an act passed by the legislative branch and signed by the executive branch through their vote at the polls. This power is an essential element reserved to the people in Maryland's balance between direct and representative democracy. The referendum exists in the Maryland Constitution and in every other charter county in Maryland.
Thank you. We've given this kind of a basic consideration here, and given it some time. And as with all other topics, we reserve the opportunity to come back to this at a later date. I just want to make one more note about this summary sheet. Did anybody see anything like egregiously
I have 2 questions.
unrepresentative in here of what we asked of DLR?
On the procurement piece, I thought what we had agreed to was basically do some sort of top line stuff, and then everything else comes out and we solve these other problems in statute. This seems to say that there's actually some wording in the language that we're going to change that's currently there. I thought we were going to try to take it all out and solve. There's more than just these problems in the procurement section.
All right. So this says retain procurement standard that contracts above a specific dollar threshold. I guess it should say contracts above a threshold and contracts that need to be formally advertised. But the point is that these things would be retained.
So the only thing that would be retained is the standard, and that all the things you just talked about have to be approved by BOE, but then everything else gets removed and
Correct.
we address it by ordinance.
Yeah, I think the way I put it in one of the briefings that the vice chair and I did earlier was that Article 6, Subtitle 11, Procurement, has essentially two substantive elements, and everything else is essentially administrative. The most essential things here are: by ordinance passed by 2/3 of the city council members, the mayor and city council shall set the dollar thresholds for contracts that must be formally advertised and contracts that must be approved by the Board of Estimates. And so that's the one big substantive thing. The other substantive thing here is that all contracts are awarded to lowest bidder, and then everything else is administrative. And so we would keep the one substantive thing about there is a threshold set by ordinance, and everything above that needs to be approved by the Board of Estimates, and get rid of the other substantive thing that we don't want anymore, which is the lowest bid,
Correct.
and
Okay.
and also get rid of the
Okay.
administrative stuff.
Okay.
Effectively reducing the procurement subtitle to just what exists today as 11B,
Okay.
or maybe 11B, and
Okay. I just wanted to clarify. That's what you're saying here. I just wanted
Yeah,
to make sure.
that's that.
And then going back to our conversation about like how many of the amendments do we have? I think all of this is very confusing to the voter. It's hard to do it. We have to sort of find a middle ground between putting all of these in one versus putting them each in themselves, because that's a lot of them.
Yeah. So having had,
So, but my proposal for a middle ground, by the way,
Okay.
is that this new budget article should be its own amendment. Okay, because we are creating a new article about unless all of this, because there's the mayor side, which is the what the mayor has to do, that's under the mayor's piece, and then there's the creating of the budget article, correct?
there is no world in which I would propose to separate these things from one another, because all of this has to do with us creating a reformed budget process. Moving the budget process out of the Board of Estimates article and into its own article is superficial in and of itself. It's then the changes that we make to budget process that are
So all of this would
Substantive.
go under the new article, is what you're saying.
well, no, because part of refining and improving our budget process is also the creation of a specific provision for final action on bills, which right now does not exist separate for the budget,
Right.
as different from all other ordinances. And so as an essential element of improving our budget process, we would have to then also go into the mayor's article.
Right.
And so it would not seem appropriate to me to be making that one change to the mayor's article to create a separate final action provision, and then to have a whole separate charter amendment on the ballot that just modifies the general provision on the mayor's final action requirement. And that's the only other thing that we have here that would touch on the mayor's article.
Mhm. Well, again, I just think that it's as we saw and that we continue to see in the public meetings, it takes a long time to explain all of this for folks and to be really clear about what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so I do think that separating some of this out, even though I understand where you're coming from on, it's all sort of one package. And if one passes and one doesn't, that's going to screw us over. But from a transparency perspective, I really think it's important that we figure out if there's other topics here, and maybe I just need to go into the charter and figure it out myself, that could be separated out from a transparency perspective. Because even the mayor's role and the fact that we're removing BOE from the process or from the beginning of the process, removing the cap on the contingency. I mean, there's a lot here.
Having led 4 briefings on this now and gone through it with knowledgeable council members in about 25 minutes, I know it takes, people have to be familiar with the way our government is structured and operates in order to be able to take this in. And even then, it takes 25 minutes to go through all of this. We've had some conversations about this. We are seeking some guidance from the Board of Elections and the Attorney General's office, who makes decisions about
Okay.
what is an appropriate level of clarity for ballot measures. And I don't think that we have any more information right now than we had at the last 2 meetings when we talked about this.
I appreciate that you've gone to the Board of Elections and AG to
Yeah, we're
have
working on
at
it.
least some conversation about that.
Yes, we're working on it. No egregious issues with how I've characterized it. Yeah. Okay, good. Then I feel confident in being able to distribute this to folks as necessary, and the meeting at Coppin and such.
I think
Yeah,
I'm not sure that this is in the form of a public document, though. It's confusing. It's
It's
short.
probably
It's
not.
shorthand.
it's got to be zhuzhed up. It's got to be zhuzhed up. Is that an acceptable word? Zhuzhed.
I know what you're saying.
Okay, it's got to be zhuzhed up. It's gonna be.
Yeah. Because okay, so you're
Somebody needed to compile it. Somebody else needs to do the zhuzhing. I'm not the zhuzher.
okay, but yeah, I just I don't. It's
If I were, I'd be called the zhuzher extraordinaire. Ben?
I just had a quick question about how attached we are to having a totally separate article from a drafting perspective.
What do you mean?
It's a complicated,
totally against what I was trying to do. Okay.
No, I'm not going against it. No, I'm not going against it. I'm speaking selfishly as the drafter right now. I'm not talking about policy. I'm talking about having another name or numbered article. How do you feel, hypothetically speaking, about having, say, like a part A to Article 6 and a part B
Oh, I see.
to Article 6?
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about,
Okay,
no.
about the numbers.
I don't
but-
deal with all that.
Okay.
Part B could be called budget. It's alliterative.
B is for budget. It's good enough for me.
We can talk about it offline. I'm just, mull it.
Sesame Street was a crossword answer in the New York Times over the weekend. It was.
It's an organizational tool in the first place.
Yeah. As somebody who, speaking for myself, envisions a future where there's no board of estimates.
Yeah.
I like the idea that some of these things are getting us to a place where things are outside of the board of estimates sphere. And so having a separate article makes sense for that.
I will say in the vein of economy,
Uh-huh.
in this future where the BOE does not exist,
Uh-huh.
you will have a 6. And something has to take the place of that 6. And it might as well be Part B for budget that just assumes the superior role at that point in time.
But right now 6 is BOA.
We can change the name of it.
Uh-huh.
Feel free to elaborate. Explain this more. We can change the title of 6 from Board of Estimates,
Yeah.
but there's Board of Estimates content that we don't propose to remove at this time.
Well, you can make it more general. It could,
BOEN, comma, budget, and then.
or semicolon, whatever you want. I think, why don't I do this? Why don't I send you a draft that has this vision?
The organizational thing is because you don't like the idea of adding a 12th article to the charter and calling that budget.
I don't like the idea of in the future time having to go update every single citation because the knock-on effect. Oh, you wanted to add budget at the end?
No, I don't care where it's added, but I just don't know what else to do except for add it at the end, I guess. I had,
remunerate?
I was, because it's the flow of the document begs it to be closer to the other
Yeah.
things. But I mean, if you just want to tack it on the end and have it be real messy until you restate the entire charter in 2028.
You should remunerate, otherwise.
I hear where you're going, Ben, and I understand this.
You don't have to make up your mind now. Or I should say the committee doesn't have to make up their mind now.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I think it'd be interesting to hear from the law department about whether or not the naming and numbering of articles is substantive for interpretation purposes down the line. Statutory interpretation wise.
I look forward to seeing any drafts DLR provides.
I thought y'all was fresh.
So Ben, you were thinking, I mean, aside from this Article 6 thing, you were thinking that we would put the new budget article somewhere in here and remunerate all of these.
I don't
Put it at
want to
the
do
end.
that.
Oh, that's why. Okay, that's why. Got it.
Sorry, Ethan's responsible for me being distracted just a second ago. Don't want to do what? What doesn't he want to do?
It sounds like he doesn't want to remunerate or put it at the end,
Yeah.
which is where, but it
It
seems to make a little sense because eventually we're going to get rid of the Board of Estimates one. So does it make sense to just keep the budget in there?
yeah, that's right. I mean, it's just grown on me.
What discussions do, that's why we discuss.
Right? If it's 6A now, then or 6B now, then we just do away with 6A in the future and 6B just becomes 6.
There we go.
Yeah, it would have to be, well, it'd be 6A, Board of Estimates, 6B, budget. This now that I've said it, it really now. Well, now that I've said it, it's like rubbing up against the I'm like I want to dissociate the budget from the Board of Estimates, and if it's A and B,
That's eventually.
yeah.
So I'll say right now,
Wait, can budget be A and Board of Estimates be B?
whatever you want. So
That's better. Then the Board of Estimates is just a necessary evil as a component of our current budget process. I accept that more.
Oh my God.
I accept the Board of Estimates as being subservient to the budget process, not the other way around.
And for what it's worth, I'll point out that there is the section titled headings in Article 1 of the charter that says any headings preceding the texts of the several articles in the sections are inserted solely for convenience or reference and shall not constitute a part of the charter, nor shall they affect its meaning, construction, or effect. So
There we go.
I think you could probably change some of the headings
So you
around
found
without
that
it being
draft that I sent
submitted
you?
to the yes.
thank you.
They're missing a clause in there that says it's solely for the purpose of causing people to bristle with antagonism. I like budget as A and Board of Estimates as B. That makes more logical sense to me. That seems like the hierarchy of needs. Does that seem?
The changes that we have in here that are procurement and all of that would be in B.
No, it'd be an A. Everything would be an A. Oh, no, the procurement would still be in B. Yeah, that'd still be in B. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the procurement would still be in B for right now,
That's right.
but we would eventually move it elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does this sound reasonable? A and
Yes.
B
Yes.
arrangement? Okay, good. The committee approves that this is,
Like my crackers crunched up in my soup as opposed to outside.
you like soup? You like soup?
What are we?
Soup Man Jones. Okay. How you doing, Tyler? Isaiah, how you doing? Good. Okay. I know that we've been waiting for this document that you sent around yesterday, Councilman Ramos, about DLR and OCS, and that before going into any discussion about it, we need to give OCS and DLR time to read it and to give us their feedback on it after having considered it. But would you like to go over it? Okay.
Yes, I didn't think we were going to come to conclusions today because they haven't had a chance to take a look at it. But I would say that I broke the proposal up into two parts. The first one would be something that we can do this term, or this time that we're doing charter changes, which is basically move the entirety of the DLR description that is now under executive departments for some reason. I don't know why it was moved. Over to its own article, which, by the way, it has always been its own article in the charter until 2018, when I think Avery pissed somebody off and it ended up, no, I'm serious. It ended up moving under executive departments, which doesn't make sense to me, as, you know, that DLR is supposed to be, neutral and working for all of the parties. So I would recommend that we do that this time, which is to take the entirety of the article, which is not very, of the section, which is not very long, and move it into its own Article 12. And then eventually we can have the conversation about the merger of DLR and OCS. And I had proposed that that we could do by code. That does not have to be changing the charter. As a matter of fact, if you skip over to the appendices, you can see the language from DLR and OCS. Some of it is surprisingly similar. And that the things that DLR, some of the things that they're not doing, OCS is doing. Some of the things that OCS is doing, DLR is in there. And I provided a handy chart. And the chart is basically is the language that's in both the code for OCS and the charter for DLR, and which entity does which thing. And it may be that some of these things that entity doesn't actually do, but I'm just looking at what's written. Okay. So first of all, investigating the laws of this in any other state as requested by the mayor, the council, or the agency head. I actually should put that for both, because OCS sometimes does that on request. Investigate all available information related to a matter which is subject of legislation in the General Assembly. Neither of them do unless we ask. Investigate and collect all available information related to matter and the subject of legislation that's before the city council, and analyze pending legislation before the city council. OCS does that. DLR, it's written in their charter language, but does not do that. But I put a check mark here because it's written in the charter language. My point being here is that the language in the code and the language in the charter is very similar for both organizations. So I don't think we actually have to make any charter changes other than moving it. But we do need to have, I would like to have a discussion around the combination of both. The other one here is prepare and advise the preparation of a bill. So that's bill drafting. Only DLR does that. Preserve and collect all information obtained and carefully indexed, arranged, and accessible to the public. Both do that. Now, DLR has the archives, but the way that this is written could be that they, handle Legistar and do all the filings and all of that kind of stuff too. Analyze the city's budget and make recommendations. It's in the DLR article, but neither are actually doing that, although OCR is analyzing it for us, but we haven't asked them to make any recommendations. Provide staff assistance to the city council, only OCR does that. Keep all the books, documents, and archives and plats, and that is done by both. Collect and arrange safely keep complete list of ordinance, resolutions, and proceedings of the city council. Both do that. And then the historical documents and the archives is DLR. So my point in doing this is looking at both of the code where OCR is and the charter amendment to the charter where DLR is super similar. And so it doesn't need to, I think, have any actual change to what it says to DLR, but that when we think about combining the two, and the reason to combine the two is because I would like to use the model that we have in the General Assembly, which is the Department of Legislative Services. And the reason for that is that I think that, first of all, having more people to do what I think the council has been asking for is really important. Two is that the main issue is that I would like to make sure that bill reports and analysis and all of that is done by an independent body that we consider independent. And that they are doing the research, asking the agencies, asking us, asking advocates, really doing specific research, because it's been clear that there's times where the bill reports that come to us are very clearly fashioned in a way that, and that's not saying anything about this particular mayor. It's all over. It's always been this way that the administration wants to do. It has been. The administration wants their agencies to do what they want. And so what we want is objective information. The mayor's office can still do bill reports, but they wouldn't be required. They would be required of the OCS DLR, whatever we end up calling it, so that we have independent analysis. So I also looked at what the department might actually look like. So we would have a legislative services subgroup, legislative analysis subgroup, financial analysis, staffing services to the city council, legal analysis. We should talk about that because we got to think about the law department here, and the archives. And that proposed staffing would be the director of legislative reference, and then there would be directors for each of these subgroups. So that is the summary of what I'm proposing, and I really went deep into what each the code and the charter says to come up with, at least for this first time, move DLR back to where it was as a single article in the charter this time. And then we can work through, and I would have to do all the work that I have to do for a normal ordinance to try to get that passed and work with DLR and OCS if that is something that members are interested in.
When was DLR in its own article?
Up until 2018.
No, it wasn't. 2018, the Charter Amendment, Article 7, Executive Departments, had Department of Legislative Reference already existing as Subtitle 90. Department.
There was Amendment G that moved the DLR from an independent article to executive. Mm-hmm.
It was the only ballot question that came through as a mayor and city council resolution in 2018 pertaining to DLR was the one that made amendments to it where it already was in the executive department's article. It was not its own article in the charter. It was subtitle 90, and it was amended from saying there is a Department of Legislative Reference, the head of which shall be a Board of Legislative Reference, to saying there is a Department of Legislative Reference, the head of which shall be the Director of Legislative Reference, who shall supervise and direct the department. And then it goes on to change the next subtitle, which pertains to the establishment of the ad hoc board that is formed, but it was never its own. It certainly it was not in 2018 when this ballot measure came before the voters.
Mhm.
Had not at that time been its own independent article.
Sure. So I
It
can
was-
take a look at, previous years.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Nancy, Ben, you have this for your consideration. By when do you think, can you have something for we have another meeting in 2 weeks? I think the final meeting that we have scheduled at this time is 2 weeks from now. Just trying to get a sense of when you guys can think about this a little bit and help us to
I'm-
have kind of a next conversation about it. Ben?
Yeah, I would also say that the main thing for this group, right, the
3 weeks.
second is creating that new article. That is the thing for this group right this second. The issue of combining OCR, DLR and OCS, I already did it. Is a conversation that I think there's a lot more that has to be done there.
Ben?
But that would be by code.
So I haven't spoken with Nancy about this, but I'll say from a practical perspective, the not being in anyone's camp, i.e. not under the council or not under the mayor, means that there is no one principal, if you will, that feels responsible for this body. And it will make it difficult in the future to have an advocate in the budget. I know that the council historically, as has the mayor's office historically, both been advocates of legislative reference. It creates some overall budget questions, and then who we report to or who we answer to, because I know I get a lot of questions of who's your boss again, said to me by people in this room. So there's that, and then I think there may be opportunity here to add some things to this that may help with administration and just publication. I know that the administrative manual itself, just in terms of we write and publish things all the time, it may be more effective if we are able to help with that process. Not writing policy, obviously, but taking the same role as we do with regulations. And I will say the missing component here is regulations. And then,
It's in your charter.
oh, I must have skipped over that. I'm sorry.
It kind of says it, but not entirely. It says, keep a current and separate index of all rules and regulations of the departments and city agencies. It doesn't speak to the DLR responsibility to draft all of those rules for all agencies.
Which was put in code already.
Yeah.
It was already put in code. We don't need to put it. in
Right.
charter.
wanna make sure we
Well,
maintain
it's
the
just-
authority.
You're doing a comparison here between the two roles, the roles of the respective agencies, and that is a role that DLR has, although I acknowledge that you were specifically comparing what is in the charter
charter.
about DLR with what is in the code about OCS, but there also are these other things that touch on DLR specifically in the code,
Yeah.
not just the charter. So
Right.
that's one of them.
The other thing in terms of mentioning the budget, and I should have flipped this around, is having the administration's buy-in to trust this new entity as envisioned by yourself and maybe this committee is critical, because
Mhm.
having access to information and being able to have, be able to call up Tylor and just get the straight story rather than getting whatever the processed information is that ultimately gets to the council. There being a difference, obviously, is really important for how we work. And we're able to pick up the phone right now and have people trust us
Yeah, for sure.
and give us that information without having a concern that it's going anywhere or it's reaching somebody and may impact something negatively. So I would love to have that conversation and loop in kind of the CA and to see how that works in terms of their vision for how I don't know, what their administrative vision is, because that is a lot of the work that we do, especially within records management, and archives is part of records management and everything to that effect. And
Yeah.
as we get more into born digital records and everything to that effect, we are now heavily integrated or integrating with things that BCIT is doing and HR's IT department and all this other sort of stuff. So there's a lot of layers, I understand.
Yeah. And if I can add, I don't know if this document is public or not, but I just have to strongly disagree with the line that says that we have agencies write reports to kill bills. That is
We're not going to debate this at all. This is not happening.
We're not debating it, but I'm correcting it on the record that is never the guidance that we give to agencies. In fact, we do ask agents to be objective in their reports, and it is often why I will give a courtesy call to a sponsor of a bill or give a courtesy copy of a bill report, so that nobody's caught by surprise. Yeah, but we don't do that. But I do think that we would also want to have conversations, because there's no way that a separate entity can understand the depth and nuance of agency operations. Like, you would still need to come to us for information, and even do that at the state level. But I think that why they do it at the state and why it might not make so much sense at the local level is because of the volume of bills that they deal with in Annapolis. It wouldn't make sense to have to assign bills to agencies, whereas here we introduce how many bills? Like, it's
We'd
not the
introduce a
same.
lot more if we had a much larger department.
But I
Also,
but I say
look,
that to
like,
say,
there's no,
yeah.
there's it's just two different systems, right? One is a system of having independent, objective analysis, and the other is one of having the opinion of the people whose jobs you're trying to alter when you pass a bill that says this agency needs to do something differently.
Mhm.
In Annapolis, any agency is free to testify on any bill that they want.
That's right.
And they do if they have some reason to, it's something that strongly supports an initiative that they, have spearheaded or something or whatever. And they will if it's something that they are very opposed to because it'll disrupt their workflow. Look, we could very easily have a system where agencies here can testify like anybody else on any bill, but also have independent, objective analysis.
Right, which is what it says.
Also, to the other comments, Mr. Schnella, I'll just say that my father has this line that he impressed upon me at a young age: claims are free, my friend. Okay. Ben, Nancy, we have another meeting in like 3 weeks. Do you think that you can talk about this, think about this, write about this, have something to
I think,
send us before then? And
Mr. Chair, I think it's I have not had a direct conversation with them at all because we've been
Okay.
doing this by writing. And I think it's time, now that we have everything in
Yeah.
writing and their comments, that I actually meet with them.
Okay.
And then we can, we may not agree, but at least we have that meeting.
Nancy has a microphone too.
I will be leaving for Africa on Monday, so and we'll be gone. I'll be out of the city until the evening of April 7th. So, yes, I'm taking a vacation.
Okay.
So I'm available until about 10 o'clock on Monday morning. And I just don't know that I'm going to have a lot of access to my email while I'm gone. However,
Nor do we want you to.
thank you very much. I will, however, I know that both Tony and Ethan have been intimately involved in conversations on this subject. So I'll make sure they are briefed and they can continue on in my absence, if that is acceptable to the committee.
And
Okay.
the only question I have, Mr. Chair, is when we deal with some zoning bills, there's a requirement that they have to be assigned to like BMZA and DOT and like some of those bills that would need to also be,
Yeah.
because is any
That's
of
down
that
the
in
line.
state law though?
There is some stuff in state law requiring that bills be referred to BMZA and Planning Commission and stuff
Okay.
like that. Yeah, there's stuff like that, which we could and should also be going to the state legislatures. Hey, why are you dictating our legislative process to us?
Which is why you need the administration's buy-in to this.
Okay, moving on.
And Mr. Chair, we, at the last public meeting, you and I had a conversation around the capital budget. I'm still very clearly want to separate the two, but we have not had the chance to discuss it. And it seems like it would be hard to integrate into the plan that we have right now.
I think so.
So I do want to take some really good time to think about and look at what other cities are, I mean, I already looked at what other cities are doing, but I want to have a really good proposal for next time. Not
Yeah,
next meeting,
and-
but next time we
Um,
as we continue to work.
I sent an email to, did I copy you? To Laura Larson, who's leaving the budget office now. So we're going to have to make sure that somebody else picks this up. But asking about, where in the process somebody and who makes a decision about what portion of the general fund is going to be allotted to the capital budget and what is going to be allotted to the to the operating budget. That's the most like baseline starting point to me, it seems like, in trying to understand from our process, from our existing process, of like where you work back from or work forward from, to try to understand how to delineate the possibility of separate ordinances. Because somebody makes that call at some point in developing a proposed budget.
I mean, the capital budget though piece is really important and for us to have more oversight of. I mean,
Yeah.
just going through some of the capital budget, just recommendations from Planning Commission, some of the decisions make zero sense to me, and it wasn't them, you know, it's not you. I was just gonna say, staff is making the recommendations, you know, and you know, I don't know where some of the stuff disappeared to.
Okay. So, we're like a little far down the road for 2026, but this is one of the things that we have very good opportunity. Obviously my focus in trying to prepare things for in a digestive or digestible kind of manner was focused on the things that we've already asked to have drafted for 2026. But I think maybe we need to have a running tab of things that need research and development in order to be able to start considering for the future. Because again, we're here, this work doesn't stop with preparing for and executing for 2026, but we should be jumping right into the work of next big picture stuff. And what's our relative timeline on getting a draft?
So just to clarify, we're working backwards from an introduction on April 6th.
Yes.
So that's an April 1st hopper. Sure.
Okay. We have a meeting presently scheduled now that isn't until after that. We need to be able to get this draft, review it as a committee, and make sure that it's what we want. Because it's different than Ryan Dorsey wants a bill drafted. Ryan Dorsey looks at it and says, I like this draft. Let's get this introduced. We have developed these recommendations by committee. We want to affirm that the draft, we want to affirm by committee that the draft is reflective of our desires. And so we need time to be able to do that before it goes in the hopper, which on this timeline means we either need to schedule another meeting that is not yet scheduled before that April 6th hopper deadline. Or we would have to push back, and I don't think that we have a lot of room to, we don't have room to push back.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
is the committee hoping, I guess, to preserve a 3 general meeting cushion before and a veto override meeting as well before the submission or before the certification deadline at the
Yeah.
end of July?
Yes.
Okay. So you would need to pass this on third reader by Monday, June 1st. That's the last day that you can do that.
I think Aaron's calculation was even sooner, but I think that that's because
I thought that the
Bec-
Board of Estimates deadline is end of July.
hold on.
Board of Estimates, Board of Elections.
It is. It's a 31st. Sorry.
So keep passing the mic.
Oh, sure.
So yes, that's right. The Board of Elections deadline is July 20th. Okay. But my recommendation has been that the council be complete, have passed it out of the council by third reader by May 1st because of the implications of budget season and just to deal with anything else that might come up in between. So the May 1st advice is just advice, but advice based on the reality that the council calendar.
Ben, if I were to call for another meeting before the April 6th hopper deadline, what did I say? April 1st hopper deadline. Woof. Okay. Which is 2 weeks from today. And considering the need for us to, well, if I were to schedule another meeting between now and then, we've got 2 weeks. And so that hopper deadline. So we would need time to get it and for each of us to read it, which we would do the moment it hits our inboxes. And then be able to meet very shortly after that to do a collective review of it. And then any changes that might need to be made would still need to be made between then and the hopper deadline.
I think the question may also be, when is the committee actually available to meet?
Good question. We're serious about the work. We can fit this in. We can get this in. Can you have it ready for us a week from today?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Can you have it ready for us a week from today?
Yes,
Nobody else is getting any other legislation.
that is correct.
That
There goes one bit.
if we can have it a week from today, we have the community outreach meeting at Coppin on the 25th, a week from today. And we could meet in the early afternoon on the 26th.
No, that's.
We can work on Oh, no. Opening day. All right, well, so maybe we could do the 27th, but Shamoya is going to help us schedule this and stay on timeline here. Is this okay with everybody? Okay. So we can probably do the 27th. I know I'm available. Councilman Blanchard is going to be back by then, I think. Yeah. Okay, Ben. We'll be looking for it on the 25th. Thank you.
You director of legislative reps.
Okay, well, we had a shorter agenda for today. I think we put in a lot of work here to get us to a point where we know what we want to have drafted for right now. And I'm not going to be admonished for shortening this meeting this week.
No one's gonna
So the people online, some of them I don't want to.
Are there questions online? Is there anybody in the, we have an email address that anybody can submit comment to the committee through and come directly to the committee. And that is charter.review.committee@baltimorecity.gov. And we're willing and happy to take comments from anybody through our dedicated email address there. We are also going to have another community outreach meeting a week from today at Coppin University. Did I have that right? At 6 p.m. Is there the general address for Coppin is 2500 West North Avenue. There will be signage there. We also have food there, right? Yes. We've been serving food at all of these outreach listening sessions. It's this time will be catered by Coppin. Though want to give thanks to Jay's Catering, who's done a good job for these roasted vegetables have really been something to look forward to. Yeah. And the meatballs, but I don't know nothing about that. That's what I was just wondering if we could get at, but I don't know the building name. But there will be signage.
Is it the Talon where we were for the
Yeah, so we've been scheduled somewhere and then moved somewhere. So we're a little uncertain at the time, but at the moment, but we do have the date and time set at Coppin, and there will be signage to help direct people. And the council president will be posting on social media. Not me. I don't use that stuff anymore. I'm so off of it. All right. Yeah, I'm off. I don't use any social media anymore. I know that I'm going to conclude this public discussion unless we have anything else that we need to get added here on the record or curiosity or whatever from Jeff. You've been sitting so quiet. Hi, Jeff.
Have I not made clear that the less the lawyer can say publicly, the better?
Jay Hardy. Jeff, you had or Jay, you had a question at the beginning about something. Okay. Tyler's already spoken enough. Ben doesn't want me to beg anything. Nancy, Aaron, anything from you? You read the charter today? All 255 pages of it? Okay, just about good. I appreciate that. We appreciate that of anybody who does it. It's like an ice cream eating contest, right? You should get a shirt and the bowl that you here's a binder for you. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. We're gonna announce, we have a council meeting this coming Monday, right? I will announce our next meeting this coming Monday at the council meeting. Thanks.